straight rows, endless lines of trees stretching toward the horizon.
This is what modern farming looks like.
This is what we've been taught to call efficient. This is what fills our supermarkets and feeds billions of people.
But what if we've misunderstood farming all along?
What if the most productive system on Earth doesn't move in straight lines, but in circles?
In the 1990s, a Brazilian farmer named Ernst Gotch made an observation that challenged everything industrial agriculture stood for. Instead of staring at crop fields, he studied the forest, really studied it. Not the tidy monoculture surrounding his land, but the wild, layered, beautifully chaotic space where forest meets open field.
And he asked a simple question.
What if we farmed the way nature grows?
What happened next surprised almost everyone. His yields didn't rise by 10%.
Not even 100%. They increased by 400% per square foot.
Neighbors didn't know what to make of it. It didn't look scientific. It didn't look modern. Some thought it looked like magic.
But it wasn't magic.
It was geometry.
It was ecology. It was how forests have always worked, and how we somehow forgot.
Part 1. The Secret of the Forest Edge.
For most of us, real farming looks like long, straight rows. Rows of corn. Rows of soybeans. Rows of apples, oranges, almonds, all evenly spaced, perfectly aligned, stretching in mechanical precision across the land. We were told this is efficiency. Straight lines are easier to plow, easier to spray, easier to harvest with massive machines. From above, they look clean and orderly, rational, modern. But efficient for what?
Efficient for the tractor or efficient for life?
Step into a meadow, a wetland, or a forest, and you'll notice something immediately. Nature rarely grows in straight lines.
Life curves.
It clusters. It spirals. It fills every gap.
At some point, we chose to design farms for machines instead of ecosystems. We simplified and simplified until land that once supported dozens of useful species now supports just one.
And we called that progress. Now picture yourself standing at the edge of a forest. Behind you, open field, bright sunlight, wind across tall grasses. In front of you, towering trees, cool shade, the scent of soil and leaves. And right between those two worlds, in that narrow transition zone, something remarkable happens. Life explodes. Ecologists call this the edge effect. It's one of nature's most consistent patterns. Where two ecosystems meet, biodiversity and productivity peak. You'll often find more species and more activity per square foot at the edge than deep inside the forest or out in the open field. Why? Because edges blend conditions. There's sunlight and shelter, tall trees and small shrubs, herbs, vines, ground covers, roots reaching deep and shallow, birds passing through, insects pollinating, fungi weaving underground networks, microbes quietly turning minerals into nutrients. It's messy, it's irregular, it's dynamic, but it's incredibly productive. Modern agriculture looked at edges and saw inefficiency. Hedgerows were removed, tree lines bulldozed, streams straightened, fields expanded. Edges disappeared. Ernst Gotch looked at those same edges and saw something else. A blueprint. circles, spirals, and nature's geometry.
Gutsch didn't just want to copy nature loosely, he wanted to copy her design principles.
When you look closely at nature, patterns repeat again and again. Circles, branching structures, spirals.
Look at a sunflower. Its seeds aren't in rows, they form interlocking spirals. Count them and you'll often find Fibonacci numbers, 34 spirals one way, 55 the other.
Look at a nautilus shell, a perfect logarithmic spiral.
Notice how leaves climb a stem in staggered patterns, or how pine cones twist in mathematically precise spirals tied to the golden ratio, about 1.618. This ratio isn't mystical, it's practical. It allows leaves to capture maximum light without shading each other. It spaces seeds so they fit tightly without wasting room.
Nature isn't random. It's optimized.
Getch realized something powerful. If forests use spirals and layered structures to maximize life, maybe farms should too.
So instead of planting in lines, he began planting in circles and spirals, creating structures that function like a forest edge no matter where they're placed.
Not chaos.
Designed ecology.
And what emerged wasn't just a different way of planting. It was a completely different way of seeing what farming could be. Imagine this. You walk onto your land and choose a single point. That's where it begins. At the center, you plant a nitrogen-fixing tree. Maybe a Siberian pea shrub in a cooler climate, or Gliricidia or acacia in the tropics. This tree isn't just there to grow, it has a purpose. It pulls nitrogen out of the air and feeds it into the soil, quietly building fertility from nothing. Around that tree, you create your first ring. Here, you plant more nitrogen fixers and deep-rooted miners like comfrey and chicory. Their roots push far below the surface, reaching minerals that shallow plants can't touch. They pull those nutrients upward and make them available to everything else. In the next ring, you add fruiting shrubs, currants, berries, gooseberries. They enjoy partial shade, protected from scorching heat, but still soaking in plenty of sunlight. Beyond them, you plant hardy perennial herbs and flowers, yarrow, oregano, comfrey, long-lived ground covers that protect the soil and invite pollinators in. And at the outer edge, where sunlight is strongest, you plant annuals, tomatoes, beans, lettuce, the quick producers, the crops that give back within months. Step back. You've just created a circle, a living, layered ecosystem. Now here's where it gets even more interesting. If you space those plants using patterns inspired by the Fibonacci spiral, something subtle but powerful happens. As the sun moves across the sky, taller plants don't permanently block out the shorter ones. Light shifts. Every leaf gets its moment. Air flows more easily, reducing disease. The soil is protected from heavy rain and scorching heat. Leaves fall exactly where they're needed. Roots anchor and structure the ground. Mulch builds up naturally toward the center. Underground, fungi and bacteria form intricate networks of exchange. Give it a few years and the soil beneath that circle is unrecognizable. What started as dry, tired dirt turns dark and crumbly. It smells alive. It holds moisture. It hums with organisms. That's the real secret of the forest edge. Not just planting trees. Planting like a forest. Part 2. The Power of Syntropic Succession.
There's another flaw in the way we usually think about farming, especially when it comes to trees. It's the waiting. Plant an apple tree, and you might wait 5 years for fruit. A mango tree? 7. A nut tree? 10, maybe 15? During that time, you're investing water, fertilizer, labor, and money, and getting almost nothing in return. Most farmers accept this as normal. Young orchards are treated as expenses, not productive systems. Ernst Gotch didn't accept that. He looked at those empty years and saw wasted sunlight, wasted rainfall, wasted opportunity. Now think about what happens after a forest is disturbed, after a fire, a storm, a landslide. The land doesn't sit around waiting. Life rushes in. Fast-growing pioneer plants show up first. Grasses, shrubs, short-lived trees. They grow quickly, shade the soil, drop huge amounts of organic matter, and transform the microclimate. Only later do the long-lived canopy trees take over. Nature doesn't plant only for the future. It plants for now and for later, at the same time. Getch applied the same logic to agriculture. Syntropic succession means stacking plants not just in space, but in time. Instead of saying, "I'm planting oranges," he would think, "I'm planting a sequence: early species, middle species, late species." In year 1, the spaces between slow-growing fruit trees aren't left empty. They're filled with fast-growing pioneers. In tropical systems, that might mean bananas or papayas. These plants grow in months, not years. They produce food quickly. They throw large leaves that cool the soil. They generate massive amounts of biomass. From the outside, a young syntropic field can look chaotic, dense, layered, uneven. To a conventional farmer, it might look wrong. But nothing is random. Every plant has a role. The pioneers protect the soil from harsh sun and erosion. They capture sunlight that would otherwise hit bare ground. Their roots break up compacted layers. Their leaves become tomorrow's fertility. Meanwhile, under their protective canopy, the slower fruit trees, the long-term backbone of the system, grow steadily and safely. By year 2 or 3, something remarkable happens. Those banana and papaya plants have already given multiple harvests. They've done their job. Now they transition. Gutch prunes them hard, not gently trimming, but cutting back thick stems and broad leaves. And he leaves everything exactly where it falls.
This practice is called chop and drop. No hauling debris away.
No burning. No tidy piles removed from the field.
All that biomass becomes mulch. It blankets the soil. It feeds earthworms, fungi, bacteria. It insulates tree roots. It slows evaporation, helping the ground stay moist long after rain.
Then the cycle continues. Every 3 to 6 months, more growth, more pruning, more mulch, more life building life. Above ground, it can look messy, almost chaotic. But below ground, it's nothing short of miraculous. The soil begins to transform. Organic matter rises, structure improves, rainwater sinks in instead of running off. Microbes, fungi, insects, life returns. When Ernst Gutsch first began restoring degraded land in Brazil's Atlantic forest, the soil organic matter measured around 0.5%. That's the kind of number you see in worn-out farmland, soil that struggles to hold water, erodes easily,
and relies heavily on chemical fertilizers just to grow a crop. Over about 20 years of dense planting, succession, circles, and consistent chop and drop management, that number climbed to roughly 14%.
From 0.5% to 14. That's not improvement.
That's resurrection.
At 14% organic matter, soil behaves differently. It acts like a sponge, absorbing heavy rain instead of shedding it. It holds moisture during dry spells, which means far less irrigation is needed. On Gut's land, water use dropped by around 60% compared to neighboring conventional farms. Trees grown in that soil are stronger. They handle drought better. They're less prone to disease. Pest outbreaks tend to be smaller and shorter because a diverse ecosystem naturally regulates itself. And yields don't just spike once and level off. They remain high because the system keeps improving instead of wearing out.
No synthetic fertilizers. No pesticides.
No genetically modified seeds. Just plants arranged in space and time the way forests already know how to do. Syntropic agriculture doesn't try to force the earth to behave like a factory.
It invites it to behave like a forest, constantly growing, regenerating, evolving.
Part 3. Bringing it home. At this point, it's easy to think this is incredible, but it's for farmers. I just have a small backyard. Here's the beautiful part. These ideas scale down. You can compress the logic of a forest edge and syntropic succession into something as small as a 6-foot circle. Think of it as a pocket forest, a tiny, self-supporting plant community built around one tree. Instead of planting a single fruit tree in a sea of lawn, you build it a community. Picture a circle about 6 feet across, roughly the length of an adult lying down. In the center, plant a dwarf fruit tree suited to your climate. In many temperate regions, a dwarf apple works beautifully. In warmer areas, maybe it's a peach, plum, pear, or something that thrives where you live.
Now you give that tree a support team.
A foot or two from the trunk, plant chives or garlic chives. They do more than flavor meals. Their scent confuses certain pests. Their flowers feed pollinators. You can cut them again and again, and they keep growing. Further out, add strawberries. They form a living carpet over the soil, helping suppress weeds and protect moisture. They often produce fruit in the first year. On the outer edge, plant flowers like calendula, marigold, or nasturtium. They attract bees, butterflies, ladybugs, and beneficial wasps. Many are edible or medicinal too.
Step back and look at what you've created.
Where most people would plant one tree surrounded by decorative bark, you now have fruit from the tree, herbs from the chives, berries from the strawberries, flowers that feed pollinators, and soil that gets richer every season. You can build this in a weekend. Mark the circle with a stake and string. Remove the grass inside it. Plant the tree and its companions. Water deeply. Then cover the soil with 2 or 3 inches of mulch. Leaves, straw, compost, grass clippings, leaving a small gap around the trunk.
Just like that, part of your lawn becomes an ecosystem.
Once it's planted, your role shifts. You're no longer just a gardener. You're a partner. Every week or two, you step outside, snip some chives for dinner, pick strawberries, enjoy the flowers. If plants get too tall or floppy, cut them back, and then do something simple but powerful.
Drop the cuttings right where they fall.
Chop and Drop, Backyard Edition. Over time, you'll notice the mulch layer stays fairly steady, even without hauling in new bags. The plants are feeding themselves. The soil becomes darker, softer, easier to dig. Earthworms appear. And something else happens. You water less. The ground stays cooler and moist under the living cover. The tree handles heat waves better. You're not fighting nature, you're working with it. The contrast is striking.
One lonely dwarf fruit tree, surrounded by bark chips and fertilizer stakes, might cost $150 and give you modest harvests after several years.
That same budget spent on a tree plus strawberries, chives, flowers, and mulch materials gives you multiple foods, healthier soil, and a system that grows more productive each year.
And if you have space for more than one circle? Several small guilds often outperform one large uniform garden bed. Each circle creates its own edge, its own microclimate, its own tiny ecosystem. Nature loves edges. The more edges you create, the more life thrives. Closing. Rows are for machines. Circles are for life. For thousands of years, people planted in curves, clusters, and mixed patches that followed the shape of the land. They observed forests and rivers and learned from them. Then came tractors, chemicals, the belief that nature needed to be simplified and straightened to be productive. We did increase yields for a time, but we also stripped soil, polluted water, and made our food systems more fragile, even as they looked impressively tidy from above.
Today, as the hidden costs become harder to ignore, pioneers like Ernst Gutsch remind us of something profound.
Nature isn't inefficient. Nature is optimized for life. What his neighbors once called magic is really pattern, timing, and relationship, geometry, succession, patience. And it's available to you. You don't need a farm. You need one tree and a 6-foot circle around it. This weekend, visit a local nursery. Choose a dwarf fruit tree suited to your climate. Add some chives, some strawberries, a few flowers pollinators love. Go home, mark your circle, plant it, mulch it well, then let it grow. Don't demand perfection. Let it be a little wild. Let leaves fall, let insects visit, let plants lean into each other. Take a photo on planting day, then another in a month, another in 3 months. Watch how quickly life responds. In a year, look back at those first pictures. Notice the soil. Notice the harvest. Notice how one small circle changed your yard and maybe your understanding of farming itself. Plant your first circle. Let the rows belong to machines. Let the circles belong to life.